Distinguished members of iAtlantic, ladies and gentlemen, all courtesies observed, and thank you for the privilege of addressing you all today. Special word of thanks to iAtlantic's project coordinator, Professor Murray Roberts of Edinburgh University, for inviting me to say a few words at the opening of this assembly. I'm both honoured and delighted to be making these opening remarks. This is particularly so because in the course of our task of implementing Sustainable Development Goal 14 to conserve and sustainably use the ocean's resources, it's become increasingly obvious that ocean science must be the foundation upon which the achievement of SDG 14 is built. Is that foundation firmly in place? No, it is not. The majority of the ocean's properties remain unknown to science, and around 80% of the seafloor remains unsurveyed, which is an astounding situation when you consider that the ocean contains the majority of life on this planet, covers around 70% of the planet's surface, and produces over 50% of the planet's oxygen. It is this glaring deficit of scientific knowledge that gave rise to the UN General Assembly mandating the UN Decade of Ocean Science for Sustainable Development, with IOC UNESCO given the task of leading us through the decade. In the years ahead, we'll have some very important decisions to make about our relationship with this planet. And we'll need to take those decisions on the basis of the most trustworthy and comprehensive scientific findings available. Consider this point, along with the fact that the planet is much more oceanic than terrestrial, and the vital place of the Ocean Science Decade comes clearly into focus. The IOC has done a superb job of preparing us for the UN Decade of Ocean Science through a series of regional meetings around the world. And the much anticipated decade has now been launched. The course is set, and we're underway on a 10-year voyage that will provide us the science we need for the ocean we want, thereby giving us the best hope of securing the healthy planet we wish for our descendants. Ladies and gentlemen, given the unsettling conditions in which the decade's voyage has begun, it's a case of all hands on deck. And as we take to the ropes, it's fortifying to see iAtlantic pulling its weight. After all, you've been accepted as a UN Ocean Decade project, and with iAtlantic fellows now spanning the entire Atlantic basin, your presence on deck inspires others with confidence as we begin our passage. Looking around, we see the decade's voyage has begun with dark storm clouds looming. So much so that after the release of this year's IPCC report, the UN Secretary General declared a red alert for humanity. And so, as we come to a true reckoning of our place within nature and finally start living up to our responsibilities regarding intergenerational justice, we're increasingly turning to science to provide the knowledge we require to make the right decisions for the solutions to our precarious global prospects. There's no turning back now. We took this challenge on board when we signed up to the UN Decade for Ocean Science and set ourselves the course to develop the science that we need for the ocean we want. Ladies and gentlemen, I've recently returned from the IUCN World Conservation Congress in Marseille, where for the first time the ocean was given a place at the top table of the Congress. This allowed us to devote considerable time and energy to subjects such as the protection of coral reefs. Such considerations are truly existential. As I'm sure you know, the IPCC has reported with a high degree of confidence that we will lose 70 to 90% of tropical reefs when global temperatures arrive at 1.5 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, WMO reports that we're still on track for well over 3 degrees Celsius by the end of this century. Coming from an island ringed by a mighty coral reef, I, for one, on behalf of my grandchildren, refuse that future. The security of humanity on this planet may well be existentially linked to the fate of coral. Thus, we all have work to do. You may have heard my daily mantra, no healthy planet without a healthy ocean, and the ocean's health is measurably in decline. And so I say, make no mistake, with the escalating rate of detrimental anthropogenic effects upon the planetary ecosystem, fixing that decline is one of the greatest challenges that humanity has ever faced. Ladies and gentlemen, of the decade ahead, we have a universally agreed chart to guide us. I've heard to the Paris Climate Agreement and the 17 Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations. If we implement these in full, we will make peace with nature. erode or undermine them, and we're condemning our children and theirs to very uncertain futures. I say again, we have work to do. As you well know, the 14th Sustainable Development Goal sets out to conserve and sustainably use the ocean's resources. It is sobering to consider at this advanced stage of the agenda that, like the other 16 goals, we are still well behind the 8 ball when it comes to SDG 14's implementation. At the heart of SDG 14 is the sustainable blue economy, and one thing that has become increasingly obvious as we endeavor to introduce a truly sustainable blue economy is that ocean science must be the foundation upon which its achievement is built. From good science, reliable plans will be put in place, and on the basis of these plans, finance will be deployed into the sustainable blue economy at the massive scales required to secure our renewable energy, post-antibiotic medicines and healthy nutrition, and end our rampant pollution of the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, the growing experience of iAtlantic's assessment of deep and open ocean ecosystems in space and time, and its steady building of capacity and technology transfer augur well for the ocean science results we seek. As well as advancing scientific understanding, it's powerful news that you're getting that understanding straight into national, regional, and international policy processes, and your close involvement of early career ocean professionals is compelling in its logic, as we set out to change humanity's relationship with the ocean for the better. I like to say that I was deeply moved by the preamble to one of iAtlantic's Ocean Science Decade proposals, wherein was written these words: "The deep ocean remains the last unexplored frontier of our planet. It is a place that holds secrets to the origin of life and could provide ecosystem goods and services for the sustainable development of humankind. Despite being out of sight, it is impacted by human activities and faces growing pressures. High technological devices and expertise from multiple scientific areas are needed to allow us to unveil the unknown. For this, we propose a step change in deep sea science through the development of observatories and surveying technologies at various sites of the global ocean. This coordination will help us understand how the deep sea ecosystems are functioning, how they are affected by climate change and human activities, as well as contribute to protecting people from natural hazards." Moving words. On behalf of a concerned citizenry, and indeed on behalf of the creatures of the ocean, I wish you every success in these far-sighted scientific activities. So, ladies and gentlemen, over the next 9 months, we'll see great gatherings of world leaders at which vital decisions will be made for the future of life on this planet. I refer in particular to UNFCCC's COP26 in Glasgow, CBD's COP15 in Kunming, UNEA 5 in Nairobi, and the UN Ocean Conference in Lisbon. Now more than ever, ocean science claims a place at the center of these global considerations. The planet's climate is essentially created by interaction between the atmosphere and the ocean. Thus, the ocean must be center stage in addressing climate change. The other great planetary challenge, biodiversity loss, is concerned with the alarming rate of extinction of the planet's life forms. Since over 90% of these life forms are hosted in the ocean, once again, reliable ocean science is critical to correct conclusions. The UN Ocean Conference will be held in Lisbon 27 June to 1st July next year, co-hosted by Portugal and Kenya. UN member states have given the conference a theme that focuses on science and innovation, with emphasis on partnerships and solutions. I applaud iAtlantic for its adoption of a partnerships approach with academic institutions, and I encourage you to expand these as much as possible with the institutions from the South, thereby increasing your scope of technology transfer and knowledge sharing. And I look forward to learning more on the progress of your work in Lisbon next June. I conclude with a piece of advice from Shakespeare. "There is a tide in the affairs of men which, taken at the flood, leads on to fortune. Omitted, all the voyage of their life is bound in shallows and in miseries. On such a full sea are we now afloat, and we must take the current when it serves, or lose our ventures." Ladies and gentlemen, on such a full sea are we now afloat. I wish you fair winds, and thank you for your kind attention to my words.